Is DoorDash full-time something you should ever consider? My answer to you would be don't never do it. There is a reality behind doing this full time, and most drivers don't see past the money potential, but that's just it. Potential, not guaranteed, and definitely not consistent. You cannot control what DoorDash does, the orders that come to your phone, or even any of the changes DoorDash makes on a regular basis. Now, I've been full time for 5 years, 6 years total on DoorDash with over 16,000 deliveries. And I've made it work for me over the years because I don't rely just on DoorDash. So today, we are going to go into some realities about being full time. What are some positive? Because it's not all negative, and stick around because if I had to do this all over again, why I wouldn't do DoorDash full time. Okay, let's talk consistency because it's not consistent at all. You will never have a day or consecutive days that you make the same amount of money every single day. And as a full-time driver, you need to know what your expenses are. You need to know how much your bills are, living expenses, so on and so forth. And you need to break it down fully so you know how much you need in order to cover everything you need to cover. And if you do that, that's great. That's what you should do. But DoorDash, you can have a $300 day. You can have a $200 day. You can barely crack $100 depending on what's going on DoorDash. You are relying on an app to ensure that you are making the money that you need to make in order to survive full time in this gig economy. Honestly, that's kind of scary if you really think about it. You're relying on DoorDash. You can't control, and I said this earlier, you can't control what DoorDash sends to your phone. You can control the orders you take. It is a whole different ballgame when you switch from part-time to full-time. It is a different mentality altogether, and it really starts with the consistency of DoorDash. I touched a little bit about expenses, but a lot of drivers, especially if you're full-time and some part-time, don't realize how many expenses get taken out of your earnings and what are you left with. And when you are doing this full time, you look at the screen and it's blaring right in front of you, and DoorDash says, hey, you made $175. And you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. I made $175. You didn't make $175. That is reality. You actually made $175 minus putting gas back into your car because you need to fuel up for the next day. You didn't think about taking the money out for taxes because you need to pay taxes at the end of the year. And if you wait until the end of the year, that is not smart. On top of that, you really need to take out money for a car fund. I do this every single time that I work because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will have car expenses. You will need new tires at some point. You will need oil changes regularly. That you probably will need a battery at some point, and those are just a minor wear and tear. Brakes, brake pads. I can keep going on. And then eventually, if you are doing this full time, eventually you're going to need a new car because you're going to be putting a lot of miles on your car. See, it can go on and on and on. So that $175 you think is all fantastic is not even close to being $175 once you take everything away. And you need to factor that into when you're trying to figure out if you can do this full time. It's a grind. You know how much you need to make weekly, daily, when you break it all down. But what does it take to really achieve those numbers consistently on an app that's not consistent? It means that you might be working longer than what you expected. You have it in your head, oh, I can do this in 8 hours, no problem. But there are those days where even working 8 hours, you might only achieve $100, and that's not what you need. And you need to stay out later. You need to work longer hours because DoorDash is giving you crap orders. Now that's reality. There have been days where I'm waiting for the big orders to come in and I'm stuck doing $5 orders, $6 orders, and I barely maybe get a $10 order. And it's all a mind game because if you're doing this full time, you're going to have to consider whether tiers are better than non-tiers. Do I need to maintain a high acceptance rate? Do I not need to maintain a high acceptance rate? And that's where the grind actually continues and lives on, because it's not all fun and games when your money is on the line. I talked a little while about that. It's a different mentality because it is. You think it's easy when you're part-time because you have another job to rely on. You no longer have another job to rely on. This is your job. If you are enjoying this video so far, you're getting some value out of it, or if you're part-time thinking about going to full-time, my full-time drivers out there, you know what? Do me a favor, guys, and give this video a thumbs up. Okay, so let's talk. It's not long term. It might be a quick fix for a lot of dashers out there because you might have lost your job and this is an easy way for you to continue to make money. I get it. I was you. Well, 6 years later or 5 years later, here I am, still full time. But I also have an exit strategy, and I also don't rely just on DoorDash. I think DoorDash is really good for part-time drivers. I don't think it is made to be full-time because there are pressures, there is inconsistency, there are a whole bunch of things involved that I've already talked about. But what is your exit strategy? Because this isn't long-term. And the reason why I'm saying that this is not long-term, because I have watched DoorDash in 5 years. It is a completely different app. And it is dwindling. Like the money just keeps going down and down and down. And the hours get longer in order for you to consistently make the money that you need to do. DoorDash is forever changing, right? But it's never in the favor of the driver. That's why this isn't long term. Now, I just talked pretty negatively about doing this full time because I want to keep it real for anybody who is thinking about doing this or is doing it and you need a little bit of motivation. But there are some positives. You have flexibility, right? You can come and go and start and stop. Well, depending if you're a platinum dasher or whether you have to schedule, but for the most part, you can come and go and work whatever hours you want to work. Even though I highly recommend going with the peak times, and the peak times of working DoorDash might not work with your ideal times of working the app as well. So you have flexibility, right? But along with flexibility comes responsibility. So what's the responsible thing to do? You could take days off, but at what expense? Can you afford to take days off? Those are all things that you need to work into your own equation. I don't know what your expenses are. I don't know what your living situation is. Only you can know that about yourself. And also, if you're thinking about starting your own business or starting a new side hustle, honestly, this is a perfect way of doing this. So when you think about what I just talked about, exit strategies, it really does help you achieve some of your long-term goals so you can exit out of this full-time and concentrate more on the other stuff that has lasting potential for you to make long-term goals. Here are some true realities behind all of this. Guys, you never get a raise from DoorDash. You end up really losing money in the long run unless you work more. And man, does anybody really want to work more? It's the only company that I know of that you can actually lose money over the years, not actually gain it. It is a frustrating app to work. I talked a little while ago about days that you get $5 orders, $6 orders all day long. And that is frustrating. But then you get really good days that you can get, $20 orders, $75 orders, and you think it's the best app ever. You have to weigh in if some of these programs that DoorDash has will actually make you more money. When you do this full time, you have to consider all your angles, right? You have to look at all your dashing preferences. Should I turn them on? Should I turn them off? Should I try platinum so I can work whenever I want to work? I have to tell you, that is one of my biggest things for doing this full time, is dashing now whenever I need to dash now based off of my own schedule, since my own schedule is probably as inconsistent as the DoorDash platform is. A lot of times, and I said this in the beginning, people look at the money and say, oh my God, I just made like $200 today. That is fantastic. But did you really make $200? You didn't. And after all of those expenses, will that be enough for you to survive? Only you can answer that. But you need to think about it, and you need to be realistic. Give yourself realistic numbers, so that way you don't find yourself into trouble down the road. You need a car fund, you need a tax fund, and you need a retirement fund. There is no 401k doing this full time. So you need to start a Robinhood account or any one of those accounts to start investing in your future, so that way you can retire in the future. Things that people just don't really think about, but you need to. So let me know, are you full time? First of all, are there any realities to full time that I missed? You can go ahead and leave it in the comments so we can share with each other. If you are full time, would you ever recommend someone going full time? My answer is never do it. If you can avoid it, never do it. But if you are part-time and you're thinking about full-time, did this video help you out at all, giving you realistic expectations? If you are looking for more DoorDash information, I just did a video on breaking down DoorDash ratings. Well, you're going to want to check this one out next, and I'll see you over there.